Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for watching another video. Back in chapter 13, we're going to finish it up, and then we'll get on to chapter 14, which is going to be kind of cool. So, we just finished the parable of the weeds where Jesus sends an angel to reap, and separate the weeds from the wheat, and the weeds will be gathered and thrown in the fiery furnace, but the wheat will be gathered into his barn. Well, now we're going to read a bunch of smaller parables and a little bit of information that leads into chapter 14. But we're going to get going in verse 44. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then, in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who, on finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. When it was full, men drew it ashore and sat down and sorted the good into containers, but threw away the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, you might be wondering, what in the world is all that? What does that even mean? But some of you already know what that means. If you already know what that means, good job. If you don't, we're going to explain it. Verses 44 through 46. The ones talking about treasure being hidden in a field, and a man sells everything he has so he could buy that field. And then the pearl, he sold all that he had so he could get that pearl. It's because heaven is so good that when the Holy Spirit gets onto you, or gets into you, I guess, and changes your heart, you want to give everything else up so you can get Jesus. When you come to Jesus, he's going to tell you to stop doing certain things. He's going to tell you to get rid of certain things. And it's not going to, in the beginning, it's not going to be like, I have to get rid of that. It's pretty much going to be like, okay, Lord, I'll get rid of that. And then eventually in your walk, you're going to reach a point where you're like, I really don't want to get rid of this. But you're going to have to choose this materialistic thing or Jesus. Because idolatry happens when you choose materialistic things over Jesus. But the point is, in these parables, is when you know about heaven and you know it's real, you know that there's treasure in the field, you know that there is a fine pearl out there, and how it costs a lot of money, you're going to sell all your possessions to get that because you really desire it. That's what it's like when we Christians learn of heaven, learn of Jesus, and we want Jesus. We do everything that we can to get Jesus. And it really doesn't take a whole lot to get Jesus. All you have to do is say, Jesus, please enter my heart, change my way of thinking, change my desires to match and line up with yours. And he'll do that. Then it's up to you to allow him to do that. That's the catch. And then verse 47 says, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. When it was full, men drew it ashore and sat down and sorted the good into containers, but threw away the bad. And then he says, so it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Just like the parable of the weeds, this is talking about at the end of the age, the angels are the angels are going to come and separate the bad from the good and throw the bad in the fiery furnace. That's what it is. Now think about this. No one that I know has seen an angel. I haven't seen an angel. But when Jesus does return and the angels separate things, think of the unbelievers. We're going to know what's going on. We already know the truth. So we know when we see things, oh, okay. They're separating the good from the bad. But the unbelievers are going to be like, what is this thing? pulling me in this direction? Like, what is going on? They're going to be so freaked out and concerned. They're going to see the glory of God for a little bit and then be separated from it. That's awful. But anyway, after he describes these parables and that angels are going to separate the good from the bad, then it says in verse 53, when Jesus had finished these parables, he went away from there. And coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished, and said, where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And are not all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. But when Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. And he did not do any mighty works there because of their unbelief. So, some of us, we might be like kind of worried a little bit because we have a calling. And we know what that calling is, but because of our friends or our family, we're worried of what they're going to think of us or how they're going to treat us if we try to walk in that calling. Jesus is showing, if you want to walk in your calling, forsake your friends and family and focus on him, and he will help you in that calling. Now, that doesn't go for everybody. Some people, their family understands. I have a family that lives kind of far from me that knows Jesus, and they love that I have faith in Jesus. So they support me. They support my channel. I appreciate you guys. And because of that, they're okay with this. They don't see anything wrong with it. But I also have a family closer than them who don't believe. And to them, me doing a Bible study on the book of Matthew is silly, and it doesn't make sense, and it's not needed because the Bible's not truth. It's just a book written by men, and it's not history. That's their mindset. So, if you struggle with that, and you want to walk in the calling that God has for you, and your family and your friends are a little confused on what you're doing, let them know what you're doing and why you're doing it, but go somewhere else and do it, because they're only going to lead you away. And that's one of the things that you're going to have to give up for God. Only probably for a little bit of time. Eventually, they will see what you're doing, hopefully, and they will want to do it too. But it might start with you. You might be the reason why your friends or family come to Christ. But you have to walk in that calling. And Jesus will give you that strength. Just ask him to help you, and he will. This video is over, but I appreciate the new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. If you have any prayer requests, please put them down in the comments. And don't forget to stay blessed. Thank you.